Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. This is Talieach McKnight, and welcome to today's video. I'm doing this one live for y'all. So we're doing it live, y'all. And today I wanted to talk about a very interesting figure, a goddess associated with winter. And today I want to talk about the Callieach. So, this is very interesting. She's a goddess associated with winter, often depicted, always depicted as an old woman. An old woman. Callieach means veiled one or old woman. And it's the image of an old woman. She's said to be older than everyone. She is very ancient, very old. It's said that a lot of the mountains and landscape was built by her. So the Callieach. And by the way, I apologize. We're in a little bit of an uncomfortable situation here. Because I am an American, someone from the United States, talking about a figure from Irish, Scottish, and Manx mythology and folklore. So this is a Gaelic goddess popular in Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man. So, I think it's important with this or any other type of tradition like this to always respect where it comes from. These deities are very much tied to the landscape and to the land. And as someone practicing from Canada or in the diaspora, like myself, it just takes that we have to be able to respect these cultures that these things come from. And on the other hand, many of us that live in the United States, Canada, Australia, throughout the world, may resonate with these traditions, and also many of us are uprooted or have uprooted ourselves and come to a new land, and so we look to ancestral traditions. So it just takes a little sensitivity, a little bit. That we need to understand that these are these cultures and that we're not trying to really speak for them. We're just excited and trying to share a little bit about what we learn. So having said all of that, so the Callieach, all respect to these traditions, I am American though, but the Callieach is a goddess in Ireland and Scotland and the Isle of Man. She's an Irish and Scottish goddess of the winter, and her time began at Samhain. At Samhain, she is depicted as an old woman. Callieach means old hag, or old woman. So you get this idea of a very ancient old woman, like, kind of like the stereotypical, like witch, like old hag, old woman. So she's said to be older than the land. The mountains and the rock formations in different parts of Ireland and Scotland are said to be built by her, either falling out of her apron or being built by her. So she's associated with the wintertime weather. So at Samhain, we enter into this dark half of the year. We enter into a period of darkness and death and winter, and not everyone was expected to survive the winter. So entering into the winter time, this period of death in the landscape and in the agricultural cycle, entering into this period of death in a barren landscape, winters were very difficult and hard. So we have this idea that we're entering into a time of cold and darkness, and very probably people would make offerings to Callieach, the goddess of cold and winter. Often she's depicted in folklore with her staff touching anything green she finds and it turns to frost. So she goes around turning foliage into frost. So she governs the winter. Some see her as a deity that governs the winter time, a personification maybe at some level of winter. So the cold and the ice storms and hail and snow in this whole winter time is governed by the Callieach, which again means old woman, old hag, or veiled one is another etymology of her name. So this old woman that built the mountains, built the land, she's older than the land. She's said to be older than all things. So when you think of an old person, you think of someone very ancient. She's in the landscape. She's in the winter. And this is not so much a goddess of death or of destruction, really, as much as a goddess of the cold winter months. So we could say that she governs like dormancy, rest, which is necessary for renewal. Darkness is part of a cycle along with light, the light half of the year. This is a perpetual cycle. Sometimes we have to enter into a period of darkness and death, and we have to remember that death is necessary for new life. Things must die out to bloom anew. So if we look at the cycles of death and decline and cold and winter and summer, we look at this as part of a larger cycle. We have to go into the darkness, whether we like it or not. Agriculturally, taking a look at the weather, we're entering into a time of darkness and cold, at least in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, it would be switched. So this is part of a cycle. So this is not really a goddess of death per se, but a goddess of winter, of darkness, cold, winter storms, a goddess that governs, that gets us through this time. And also, like I said, very probably people would make offerings to her to propitiate, to avoid having an overly harsh winter. I'm going live here, so today I'm talking about the Callieach. Means old woman or hag or veiled one, an Irish and Scottish mythology associated with the winter. So the literature and the sources for the Callieach are a bit sparse. So, it's really unsure how ancient all of this is, but she is associated with some cairns. And again, this kind of shows how this type of polytheism is very much tied to the land and the landscape. You really can't separate truly these deities from the land and the sacred places in Ireland. So in County Meath, there's a place called the Mountain of the Callieach, and it said that she had built that mountain. Low Crew Cairns. So it's interesting. So this is a goddess of winter. And by the way, this is a great time to connect with her. If you want to focus on what does this time period in the landscape mean for me? Many of us today, just like the ancients, which it's universal wisdom. It's not just in the Hermetica, but it's reflected also in the Hermetica, this idea of as above, so below, that peering out in nature, we see cycles within ourselves, we see kind of a universal law of flux and reflux. What is a tide? In the ocean and the tide, you'll see the waters come up on the land and then retreat. So the tides are an ebb and flow. The waters come onto the beach and then they recede. Breathing is a rhythm. We breathe in, we breathe out. So it's like a polarity, right? The heart, when it beats, it draws in blood and it pushes it out. Draws in blood and pushes it out. Any type of a tone or a frequency comes in a series of waves. So this idea of flux and reflux. So we enter into a cold period of death, a period of coldness and bitterness, often human suffering. harshness is where we gain a lot of our tough lessons. So, not to overly cover these ancient ideas and blend them with these modern metaphysical New Age concepts. That's not the goal here, but this deeper reflection upon the cycles of nature. It's a good time to work with the Callieach. She governs this half of the year, from Samhain to Beltane. During this dark half of the year, it's a good time to light a candle to the Callieach, ask that our period in the winter to keep away from us the harsh things. And she's also old and wise. Think of wisdom. She's so ancient. She's been there, and this time of year is a great time to reflect. As we enter into a period of darkness and cold, what do you do in the cold? You draw inward in the cold. You get a jacket. You veil yourself. Her name means veiled one. Callieach. In Irish, I apologize if I butchered that. Callieach means veil or covering, like a head covering, like an old woman, right? So this veiling. So when you, in the winter, you cover up, right? And you draw inward. You reflect. We're less active. We draw in. People often stayed in their homes. So by looking out at nature, we're able to learn certain things. And by reflecting at nature, maybe there's something that feeds us spiritually and psychologically and attuning with nature's cycles and rhythms. And by looking out at nature, mankind probably began at a very early age, all the way to prehistoric times, to philosophize the natural. We even see in the megalithic structures, a lot of these megalithic structures in Britain and in Ireland and throughout the British Isles, a lot of these structures are pre-Celtic. They go back many thousands of years, but they're aligned with the winter solstice and summer solstice in many cases, although in modern not really modern. And the old Gaelic festivals were really just Samhain, Imbolc, Beltane, and Lunasa. But anyway, so Callieach governs, her time begins at Samhain. Imbolc is in between. Imbolc, by the way, or Imbolc, February 1st, is in the exact midpoint of the dark half of the year. So Samhain, or the Day of the Dead, begins the dark half of the year. Imbolc, February 1st, is the midpoint, and Beltane, May 1st, is the ending of the dark half of the year. So at Imbolc or Imbolc, people make offerings to Bridget, Breed, the goddess of fire and life. That at this midpoint, the Callieach's time is seen to wane because the days are becoming longer again. And then, of course, this culminates at Beltane, the 1st of May, when the Callieach's period ends. So anyways, so she governs frost, cold, the winter time, winter storms. She's depicted as an old woman. And remember that winters are harsh, so probably implicit in this is like hard life lessons. A lot of times some of our greatest lessons come through suffering. And if we look at this cycle of life and death and darkness and light, pleasure and pain, we do see that sometimes from our sufferings, we gain our greatest lessons. And sometimes you have to go through a period of death in order to have new life. Okay, and sometimes you have to prune things in order for things to grow properly. So this is part of a cycle. So I think it's very fitting at this time. We're just a few days after All Souls Day. We're just 3 days away from Samhain. So this is a very good time to make a quick video about the Callieach. So that is the Callieach, a goddess in Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man, a Gaelic goddess, an Irish and Scottish goddess associated with winter. Sorry, my connection's going out. But that's the end of the video for today. Aradius says a constant push and pull. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right, y'all. I'm gonna download this video, and I have to re-upload to YouTube. I mean to Facebook, because Facebook automatically deletes lives. So I'm gonna delete and re-upload, put it up on YouTube with the link. So thank you so much for joining me in this video. Maybe some of y'all that you find this interesting. I highly recommend y'all light a candle to the Callieach, work with her during this time, ask her to reveal to you the mysteries of winter and what this season, what this dark half of the year can teach you. So anyways, thank you so much, y'all, and I will see y'all in the next video. Have a great day, everyone. And of course, I'm having my bloopers. There we go. All right, have a great day, y'all. Thank you so much.